then the opposing will do exactly the same. Okay? We are ready. Oh, you will get a sign at the end of 4 minutes. All right? At the end of 5, you will be required to stop, if necessary, mid-sentence. But after 4 minutes, you will get a warning.
Okay. I shall start. My name is Urko. I'm going to talk, as Ron said, about Geneva Convention. So I'm going to start explaining what Geneva Convention is. It is the standard for international law for humanitarian concerns. And this standard, this treaty that the United States has signed almost 130 years ago, applies to not only prisoners of war, not only to combatants, but also to non-combatants, to citizens. So it applies to almost everybody that's been detained in a war, in a conflict. So these signatory parties, like the United States and almost every other country in the world that have signed this treaty, this international law, when you are fighting against a country or a concept like Al-Qaeda that is not a signatory country or party of this treaty, you still have to treat the prisoners, the detainees, under the Geneva Convention. So there's no excuse in that regard. According to the Article 3, even if the people fighting against a party that is signatory to the Geneva Convention, even if they don't have a citizenship, even if they don't have any passport, if they don't represent any country, they still have to be treated like they are prisoners of war. And those combatants, when you hold them in captivity, you need to treat them humanly according to the Geneva Convention. No outrage upon personal dignity must be made upon them. No humiliation, no degrading in persona, and these parties should give judicial guarantees to these people. This is one topic that later on somebody else is going to talk about. Those protections apply even if they are not prisoners of war. So the first thing that is under the Geneva Convention is to decide whether these people, these detainees, are prisoners of war or they're not. So according to Article 5, until this is decided by a tribunal, you have to treat them like prisoners of war. According to many records of International Amnesty, Human Rights Watch, there's been a lot of violations of this Geneva Convention. Still, there's no tribunal set to decide whether these people are prisoners of war or not. Then what did the United States did? They create a new term, a new concept called unlawful combatant. So this is an invented category. And why did the United States government create this category? They created it because the Geneva Convention don't allow to interrogate the prisoners. You can ask them for the name, the rank, and the serial number, but you cannot interrogate them. So by naming them as unlawful combatants, it's like you are free to do whatever you want. You don't have to respect the Geneva Convention. The problem is that now that these captive people have been interrogated, that you cannot use this information that you've gathered through torture or enhanced interrogation technique on a U.S. tribunal. So the solution is not very easy. You don't know what to do. It is fruit of the forbidden tree. The U.S. objective in this war on terror is to eradicate evil, which is a good thing. But it's doing so by using evil or evil tactics, like what's happening in Guantanamo. Not only is international law like the Geneva Convention, they need to be applied or being applied. Also, the Pentagon has some regulations, and in those regulations it's stated that you should advise prisoners of war of their rights. They have the right to have an interpreter. They have the right to have witnesses in the interrogation, and none of this has been done by the first years of Guantanamo Bay. So this international law that seems like they are some sort of simple treaty, in reality under the U.S. law, they became law of the land, so they're on par of the constitutional land. So it's serious law. We can say that Guantanamo is ignoring United States law, so not only an international agreement or a treaty. And I would like to finish I think it is only 3 or 4 minutes exposition with one quote of one of your founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin. He said, "Any society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both." And that's my exposition.
Thank you. My name is?
My name is Sean Edge, and in response to that, I have a number that a lot of Americans, a lot of other people in the world know. It is 2974. 2,974 the number of Americans that perished in the 2001 September 11th hijackings and attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. These attacks were a result of a religious jihad that was declared on the U.S. and other Western countries by Islamic extremist groups. Soon after, the U.S. government implemented our war on terror. This war that the U.S. refers to was started by these Islamic extremist groups and carried out with the attacks on 9/11. Crucial to the development and application of the war on terror is the detaining of these illegal enemies, terrorists, or potential illegal enemies and potential terrorists. These detainees are a form of prisoners of war that have conspired to or have carried out illegal tactics of war. The U.S. government has categorized these individuals as illegal enemies to encompass the criminals that are not defined in the Geneva Convention. Without detaining these individuals, our national security would be at an unnecessary risk of another attack. I also wanted to share some of the rules of war, and parties are bound by the laws of war to the extent that such compliance does not interfere with achieving legitimate military goals. For example, they are obliged to make every effort to avoid damaging people and property not involved in combat, but they are not guilty of a war crime if a bomb mistakenly hits a residential area. And as we all know, the planes were not mistakenly ran into the buildings. By the same token, combatants that use protected people or property as shields or camouflage are guilty of violations of laws of war and are responsible for damage to those that should be protected. So, them using our own citizens as, part of their artillery definitely broke the laws of war. So, I don't know, that's pretty much where I'm at right now.
All right, next topic is?